Does your bedroom look beautiful in your mind, but like a mess in real life? Because I know what that feels like. I have been there. In fact, I have been there more than once. And that's why today I'm bringing some easy to follow tips to take your bedroom from basic to beautiful. And we are going to talk bed placement, layouts, lighting, materials, textures, all the stuff that's going to get you ready to turn your bedroom into a place that looks absolutely designed, but better than that, that actually works for your real life and follows your natural habits. So let's get started because this is going to be a good one. Hi guys, I'm Louie. I'm an architect and designer, and I have done my fair share of bedrooms. But here on the Interiorist, what I like to do is basically take everything I've learned and break it down into more actionable, practical tips that you can apply to your space. But more than that, what I'd really love to do is teach you guys how to think like a designer so that when you take on any project, you're already in the right mindset, and that will make it so much easier to succeed and to get the results that you want. So let's get started because I have a lot to go through today. So for our first step, we're going to start with flow, function, and layout. And the reason we're going to do this is because this is actually one of the most important and first steps that architects and designers take, because before you're going to go thinking about colors, what bed, all the beautiful things you want to put in there, you actually want to figure out a plan of what you need to put in there, where it goes, and what actually fits in your space. So this is where we're going to start thinking about where flow happens, how you walk through the room, where's your entry point, where's the light coming in from, do you have pillars or any fixed architectural features that you can't move that we would consider constraints to your space. This is the moment where you're going to take it all in, because you really need to have an appropriate idea of the space before you start planning it. And that is why we start with layout. So for your layout, you can use apps, but honestly, I just think pen and paper is a lot faster and a lot simpler. Now, if you want to sketch it out like an architect, you're going to define a scale. So for example, if you have a centimeter, then that 1 centimeter on your ruler is going to equal a meter or half a meter. And you're going to determine what works according to your space and your paper so that you can have a drawing that's actually to scale. But that is not the most important. It really helps, but you don't really have to do that, okay? You can just sketch it out and estimate. It's not going to look perfect. It's not going to be perfectly to scale, but it will give you an honest idea of what your space looks like and how you're going to work with it. We are talking about the bedroom, and so pretty obviously, the bed is the protagonist here. And that's why not only the bed you choose, but where you put it is so important, especially to help define your layout. It is your anchor piece. It is the central piece where everything else will work around. And it is where you're going to spend the most of your time. So you want to make sure that it's in a comfortable spot, not just for your flow, but also for your sleep and for your rest. So let's go over different bed placements so that you can consider what works best for your space and what works best for you. So we have the commanding position, which means placing the bed against a solid wall where you can see the door without being directly aligned with it. And this gives a natural sense of safety and rest. Think of it like this. It's a stakeout position. Your back is against the wall, so you know you're protected from behind and everything that's in the room is visible to you. So it just instinctively makes you feel safer. Next, you want to avoid direct window placement because placing the head of your bed under a window can disrupt sleep because of light, drafts, or noise. Instead, center the bed on a long, uninterrupted wall so it becomes the natural focal point. But remember, guys, these rules are not so strict that you can't break them. So if the best place for your bed in your room is under the window, go for it. Just take other precautions to make sure that you can still sleep easy at night. And finally, you want to clear pathways. So always aim for at least 30 to 36 inches or 70 to 90 centimeters of clearance around the bed so you're not squeezing past furniture and your body is absolutely comfortable getting around. Another super important thing you want to consider when you're planning your layout is zoning. So what do you need this room to do for you? And what are you doing in this room? Do you just sleep there? Do you also study? Do you meditate? Do you work out? Do you game in there? What are your activities? Because as soon as we understand what activities are taking place, we know where to place those activities and how to plan your room so that you support your daily activities, your life, your habits, and turn it into something that works and feels great for you. This is how you get to do it. If you have a small bedroom, you want to consider using furniture as dividers. So, a slim bookshelf at the foot of the bed can double as storage and create separation. A folding screen or even a curtain can carve out a dressing nook or a micro workspace. And wall mounted items like lights, shelves, or floating desks free up floor space while keeping everything functional. In large bedrooms, you might want to try to fill up the space because the challenge here is often too much empty space. So, rugs are your best friends. You can use them to define areas like a bed zone, a reading corner by the window, or even a vanity setup. And you want to anchor each zone with furniture. So, a lounge chair and side table create a clear reading spot. A desk with a lamp defines a workspace. And also, wide bookshelves or freestanding screens can section off spaces without closing off the room. So, try that out too. Finally, before we wrap up that beautiful layout, what we want to do is think about balance and symmetry. And here's why. Symmetry is great. It's beautiful. It makes sense and our brain reads it very easily. So if you have a bed with the two nightstands and two lamps on top and everything's matching, it's going to look chic. It's going to look beautiful, classic, all that stuff. But if you want to play around with something asymmetrical, for example, so let's say now we have the bed, we have the two nightstands, and we were going to go with a lamp on one nightstand, but on the other one, we're going to forego that lamp, forget the lamp, and we're going to go ahead and put a pendant, and now we have a long pendant on one side and a lamp on the other. So we're working with different heights, we're working with different materials probably, so we're starting to add all of this visual interest through asymmetry. So if you like that, if you want something more dynamic, a little bit more fun, play around with asymmetry, you will have a good time, and if not, stick to symmetry because it is gorgeous either way. So by this point, what you should have is a basic floor plan, nothing fancy, nothing too detailed, just a basic floor plan because it's going to be your little blueprint for when you choose materials, colors, furniture, all the other stuff that's going to be important that you're going to place in there. So right now, what you just want is you want a drawing with your window, your door, your bed, your nightstands, and more or less where you imagine each piece of furniture is going to go, considering flow, considering the light in your room. And then what's going to happen is while you progress throughout your design journey, you might want to switch it up, and that's okay. You can always erase it, draw it again, think of it in a different way, and basically just tweak it so that it works for you. So this is just the first step. Before we move on, I really want to get into storage because it is such an important part. It is not an afterthought. It should be a priority when designing your space, when choosing furniture, when defining your layout. It is most important. And here is why. Here is a truth that I always tell my clients. Clean is halfway to chic. You can have the best space in the world, the most beautiful furniture, everything gorgeous. If it's cluttered and if it's messy, you just don't let the design shine. You're going to focus on all the mess. So what we want to do is think about how we can approach organization and storage in our space in a way that it works with our natural habits. So you don't want to force yourself to change how you live in order to keep your space organized. You want to design your space so that it is organized with the way you live. You understand? So we want to match everything. There I go smacking it again. But we want to match everything together so that we have your function and how you live your daily life working with how you organize and store things in your bedroom. So here's how you're going to do it. First thing you want to do is spot your clutter zone. So you're going to think about where things tend to pile up. So for example, if you have shoes by the bedside, then you want to choose a nightstand with legs so you can slide them underneath. And that way they're not in the pathway, but they're also exactly where you naturally leave them. Other things like daily accessories, so keys, glasses, or charging cables can be put on a tray or a drawer by the bed. Containing them will instantly cut down the visual chaos. And things like clothing piles, well, you can use baskets at the foot of the bed or hooks behind the door. A divided hamper can also make it easy. So think of different ways that you can give them a destination so they're not just floating around. Also, you want to treat storage as design. So like I said, it is not an afterthought. It should look and feel intentional. So here's how to plan for storage. If you're considering closet and clothing and you have no closet, no problem. A slim clothing rack can double as a display piece if you hang things in an organized way. And woven hampers or lidded bins also help keep laundry hidden but stylish. Also consider your nightstands. They will be clutter magnets. So pick one with drawers if possible, with a shelf to give you extra support. And if not, use a small tray to kind of group your essentials. Like I said, you can put your glasses, a candle, a book, and everything will look curated instead of messy. And this is a funny one because if you just put everything on your nightstand in the exact same way, it will look messier than if you put the exact same display on a tray. So trust me with that. Grab yourself a tray. You won't regret it. So let's just recap here. The important thing is that if you designate a place for everything and they have a home, then they're not just floating around your room creating a mess and a clutter. Now, guys, if you want a whole video on organizing your space, let me know in the comments because as a mom of 3, I promise you I have my own hacks and systems to organize your space and to try and keep it organized in the long run. So yeah, it's a lot of information. So if you wanted a whole other video, let me know. Now let's move on to step number 2, which is style, colors, and materials. And this is the fun part where we start going into aesthetics. But first, we're going to define what your style is. What is your vibe? What do you want from this room? What do you want it to look and feel like? Because that way we can use it as a compass for our other choices when it comes to materials and colors, and even some of the storage and furniture choices will also be guided by this principle. So here's how we're going to go about defining your style. So when defining your style, you want to ask yourself, how do I want this room to feel? Is it calm, cozy, dramatic, eclectic? So let's just go through a few of the most popular styles so that you can see what works for you. And remember, you don't have to follow these like a rule book. Break the rules, mix things up, make the style yours. That's perfectly okay. But here are some to just kind of get you started. We have the minimalist and the Scandinavian, so clean lines, neutral palettes, light woods, and breathable fabrics like cotton or linen, because for small bedrooms, it works wonderfully and it will maximize light and it will minimize clutter. Next, we have contemporary, so sleek and current with a mix of neutrals and bold accents. So think streamlined furniture, polished finishes, and a few standout statement pieces. It works super well in both large and small bedrooms. Next, we have industrial, so it is raw and edgy with exposed metal, darker wood, and a restrained color palette that generally goes something like gray, black, tan. And in large bedrooms, you can layer with oversized art. It'll look great. In smaller ones, you want to keep furniture light to avoid heaviness. We also have traditional homes, so classic and timeless. That means warm wood, structured furniture, and layered textiles like quilted bedding or tailored curtains. They work beautifully in larger bedrooms, creating a grounded and elegant feel, but it also works well in smaller spaces too. Now, if you want to go bold and eclectic, you want to mix vibrant colors, patterns, and textures like rattan, velvet, or patterned wallpaper, but basically large bedrooms will allow for more layers. In smaller ones, you want to keep walls simple and let the bedding or art be the statement. Next, we have cozy and rustic, so think warm earth tones, chunky knits, reclaimed woods, and soft wool rugs, basically anything that'll transport you back to a cozy cottage or a nice farmhouse. In large bedrooms, this will add warmth so the space doesn't feel empty. And finally, we have boho, one of the most popular ones. It is relaxed, eclectic, and layered. It will ask for vibrant colors, mixed textures, patterned rugs, woven baskets, and plenty of plants. So it works in any size bedroom, but please, in smaller bedrooms, consider keeping your layering intentional and to avoid clutter. And now that we've defined your style, we can start thinking about what materials and what colors are going to help us create that style within your space. So here's what you want to do. So if you want calm, you want to think of soft blues, grays, whites, creams, everything that kind of reflects light and keeps things looking easy and breezy. Next, if you want cozy, you want earthy tones like terracotta, caramel, and taupe. Anything that'll feel embracing will work here. And next, energizing. Well, you want to skip those, overstimulating bold colors, and you want to go with something like teal or mustard or coral, because that way you won't get sick of it so quickly and it won't overstimulate you. And finally, if you're not ready to commit, just test colors in low risk areas like bedding, a rug, or even a painted accent wall. That way you can feel it out before you bring it in full time. Now, guys, if you want more help on how to choose color, how to mix color, and how much of each color you want to use, so if you have like a palette and you want to know How much of this will I add to my space? Do I use the same amount of each color, or do I have primary, secondary, and accent colors, which yes, is the case. Well, if you want all of those additional tips, look at the description of this video because I have a wonderful resource. It is my color palette inspiration pack, and it has a ton of different color palettes, but also what you really need, which are the tips on how to apply them in your space. So check that out. I promise you won't regret it. So we have defined our style, we have defined a color palette, and now it is time to make it feel sensorial and designed and just delicious to be in. And that is through materials and layers and textures and all that jazz. So what we want to do now is just kind of start giving your room that texture and the volume and bringing in all the little elements that actually make it feel so good. So here's how you're going to go about it. Now for materials, remember to refer back to your style and your palette, but here are a few things to get you going. When it comes to bedding, maybe consider upgrading to natural fabrics like organic cotton, bamboo, or linen. They breathe for comfort and they feel great and age beautifully so they can last you a while. When it comes to curtains, consider sheer fabrics because they filter light softly, while linen panels bring texture and a natural feel. If you have a large room, rugs will be your best friend because you will use a rug to anchor the bed and fill the empty space. And when it comes to a smaller room, rugs will give you that cozy feel and will also create different zones. Now, when it comes to furniture, in small rooms, you want to prioritize multifunctional pieces like a bed with built-in drawers to maximize storage. And in larger rooms, you want to layer in extras like a bench, a chaise, or a vanity to enhance functionality. Okay, so let's recap, right? In this step, you want to define your style and use that definition to help you choose things like your color palette, your materials, and under all of that, you can then start to think of how to layer in all of these textures and materials to make your room even more sensorial, even more pleasant to be in, and to truly tell your style story in the best way possible. Now, before we move into step number 3, where we're going to go into lighting and accessories and all the beautiful little finishing touches we're going to add to your room, I really want to go through different beds and bed frames because, like I said before, it's the protagonist of the space. It's going to take up a big chunk of your room, so we want to get it right. So let's just go through a few different choices. That way you can think about what works best for you and for your space. So we have canopy beds and they will add vertical presence and drama. They will draw your eye upward, but be very careful with this because you will need lots of space and lots of height. I've seen them in smaller rooms and it's not a pretty look. However, they can look gorgeous if you have the space for it. Now, Murphy beds are excellent for small bedrooms or multi-purpose spaces because they will free up the floor area during the day. And I know it's a very old concept, but Murphy beds have gone through quite an evolution. There are sleek contemporary versions that make them a smart option for city apartments or guest rooms. We also have elevated beds that offer hidden storage underneath. They are perfect for shoes, bins, or baskets, and another great go-to for small spaces. And you can even fit a whole closet underneath if you need to. So really a great option for tiny apartments. Next, we have upholstered headboards, and they will instantly make a master bedroom feel refined and luxurious, and they are one of my personal favorites because honestly, you can transform even the simplest bed frame with a statement headboard. And finally, we have low beds. They are perfect if you want a minimalist, grounded look. They will make ceilings feel higher, they will create a calm, zen-like atmosphere, and in small bedrooms, low beds can prevent the space from feeling crowded, while in larger bedrooms, they emphasize openness and horizontality, so pair them with low nightstands or floating shelves to keep proportions balanced. So the most important takeaway here with the beds is that you want to choose one that works for your space, but also for your lifestyle. And once you've made that choice, it's going to be the anchor for all of your other furniture choices. So make sure to take your time, no rush, but make sure to really think about it and choose the right one for you. Okay, now we're at step number 3, and this is where we go through lighting, accessories, and all the final touches that are going to take your space from a basic space to a beautiful space that reflects you. And this is where we get all of the fun and personality into it because we can come in and take that style that we've previously defined and turn it into something that's uniquely ours, right? Because we don't want a catalog look. We don't want to go on Pinterest and replicate a beautiful photo. We actually want something that's original to us. So here is how you can do it. And before I get into all of the details, let's start with lighting, because lighting is the most important one. It is the best one. It is the one that will make the most difference. So I'm going to go through how you can bring that professional designer feel through your lighting into your homes in an easy way. First, we have ambient lighting. That is your overall glow. So this is your main light source. In larger bedrooms, a statement pendant lamp or chandelier works beautifully, but in smaller bedrooms, flush mounts or semi-flush ceiling lights keep things bright without overwhelming the space. And here's a renter-friendly tip. You want to swap out harsh bulbs for warm-toned LEDs. It is the quickest and cheapest makeover you can do. Next, we have task lighting or focused use lighting. So bedside lamps are classics, but consider wall-mounted sconces, or if you're willing to do some installs, even a pendant to free up nightstand space, especially useful in smaller rooms. Now, for a master bedroom with a desk or a reading nook, add an adjustable floor lamp or swing arm wall light. They will give you lots of functionality. And here's a renter-friendly tip. You can try clip-on or battery-powered lamps or plug-in sconces. They are great because you don't need hard wiring and you can personalize the space to suit you. We also have accent lighting. That means your mood and atmosphere lighting. So you can try adding LED strips behind the headboard. They are a great choice for a soft glow, and they can also double as a nightlight for reading. But this works best when you have a more linear and contemporary headboard, or when you get it done custom. I wouldn't really go down this route for a more vintage space. If you like fairy lights, you can go with that. I'm not a big fan unless you're designing a kid's room. Then I actually think it looks super cute. But for adults, I think we can find you guys something more impactful. So let's keep looking. Now, small table lamps are a choice that always work and can make even a tiny bedroom feel cozy and inviting, and they can go on your nightstand, your desk, or your shelves. So feel around and see what works out for your space. And finally, in larger bedrooms, accent lights can highlight artwork, a seating area, or architectural details. And finally, pro tip, place lighting at different heights. So think of your ceiling as your higher point lighting, then you've got the mid levels, so lamps, and low levels for floor, and that way you can create a fun effect with mood and depth. So yeah, try that out if you feel like it. Okay, so now that we've planned out the lighting, we can get into accessories, and like I said, this is where we start injecting all the personality into the space. Now remember, we want accessories, but we don't want too much because we don't want to clutter it up, especially if you're in a smaller space, but we do want enough so that it feels personal to us. And this is where we start choosing those items, those objects that are truly ours. It's that thing that you want closer to you. So maybe a picture with your parents or your kids or your grandparents or your best friend or whoever means something to you, something a bit more intimate. Maybe artwork that has a special meaning. Like for me, for example, my husband did this really sweet thing for one of our anniversaries, and he had a local artist, paint the facade of the first building that we lived in together so that we could always have the apartment with us when we moved away. And I'll tell you now, it's not the most beautiful painting. It's not, but it means so much to me. I love it so much, and it's such a beautiful memory. So that is one that I like to put in the bedroom because it is super special to me. And it's not meant to be there for everybody else. It's meant to be there for us. So think of it like that. What are those special items that need to be close by? And you want to try and bring those in. Now, those are some that only you will know which ones work for your space or not. But here are some that I think work both for functionality and for design and are objects that can, add to your room. So let's go through my little list because hopefully it'll help you out too. So let's start with mirrors. Everybody needs a full-length mirror in the bedroom, and if you can't fit a full-length one, just go as long as you can. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I will not leave the house without checking my outfits first, so this is one that I find absolutely essential. Now, if you're in a larger bedroom, maybe choose oversized floor mirrors because they will add drama and create a statement moment. Next, you have artwork. So you want to hang pieces at eye level above the bed, dresser, or seating area. That means 57 to 60 inches, about 155 to 152 centimeters from the floor. Now, of course, feel it out with your furniture first because I am giving you a rule of thumb, but let's say you have a taller piece of furniture, maybe you're going to have to go a bit further up with that. So feel it out. A single large piece will create focus, while a gallery wall will add energy and personality. So see what works best for you and your style. Next, we have plants. So small succulents for nightstands, hanging planters for tiny bedrooms, or a tall leafy plant in an empty corner for large ones. They will add life, they will improve air quality, and if you've watched my video on how to design a happy home, you know there are studies that back how beneficial plants are for our mood and our productivity. So I recommend you watch it if you're interested in how your space is influencing your mood. Next, we'll go into textiles. So a throw blanket at the end of the bed or patterned pillows are simple ways to add color and texture without committing to permanent changes. And decorative trays. Guys, I am such a fan of these little trays. Get yourself a tray because they will keep nightstands and dressers organized. They will keep them stylish, and they are perfect for all your little knickknacks like candles, books, jewelry, your chapstick, everything. Just keep it together. Okay, it's that time, and I'm calling a timeout because I want to talk about DIY for your spaces. Now, I will be completely honest, okay? I love DIY as a concept because I love working with my hands. I love building things. I love to see something, done and finished that I have built myself. So I love the satisfaction that comes from that. However, when it comes to DIYing for your home, I often find that the true experience is that you're going to spend a lot more and you're going to use a lot more of your time than you would have if you just bought the product to begin with. And a lot of the times you're going to spend all that time, all that money and energy, and your result won't be that great. So instead of trying to DIY yourself a nightstand, just buy a cheap nightstand, thrift it, I don't know, but find something fun where you don't have to spend all that time and, just kind of trust that the ready-made piece will have more polish and more finish to it than maybe when you as an inexperienced, beginner are trying to build something or create something yourself. That being said, that doesn't mean that there aren't DIY projects that do work and that I do support you trying out for your space because honestly, I think that sometimes we got to work our budget, right? We don't have the budget for everything, so we can choose what's important and then just kind of add on with a couple of extra pieces that we've created ourselves. So here are the DIY projects that I actually believe in and I actually think it can work and that will give you the polished result that we expect for our spaces, right? So here they are. So you can go DIY with wall art. So grab a piece of patterned fabric, wallpaper samples, a beautiful picture from your camera roll, or artwork you designed yourself on Canva or Illustrator, and pop it into a store-bought frame. It will look curated without the gallery price tag. Next, you can upgrade hardware. So swap out basic drawer pulls for something in brass, matte, black, or even leather. It's a 5-minute job that can completely change the vibe of the dresser or nightstand, and you can absolutely do it yourself. It is great for thrifted pieces, so make sure to try that one. You can also refresh your paint, so that means repainting your existing furniture or giving your walls a fresh coat of neutral or mood-setting color that can completely shift the feel of the space. Okay guys, so hopefully by now you're thinking more like a designer. You have had your layout, you have considered your style, your palette, your materials, you've gone further into layering in accessories and how to work out your flow, how to inject personality, all of these different things that you can do to your room are so interesting because if you think about it in history, if you study the bedroom as a space within the home, it started out as a very functional and shared space. It was very rare for you to have your own space. And I think through the years, of course, that evolved. And today we have come to a point where it is now more than ever a place of self-expression and safety and calm and retreat. It is very much our own space. So make sure to make it feel like you. I always say that, and hopefully now you have the tools to make that happen. And as always, guys, if you need more help pulling your space together, I have the best resources. Check the comments in the other videos because people are really liking these. They are so helpful. It is a room or a home checklist that will go room by room and it will tell you what you need to have in each one of those spaces. And it will also give you helpful guides, schematics to just kind of sort out your decorating journey with a guide and make it fun and not overwhelming. And now I also have a newly released color palette inspiration pack. I think that one is over 45 pages long and it will give you so many different color palettes with hex codes and you can kind of mix and match them and compare them to see what works for your space, how you can implement one or more than one within your home. And I also give you a few quick tricks on how to mix them and how to use proportion within your color palette. So have a look at that, download it, it's right down here. And yeah, thank you so much for spending this time with me. Once again, I will be back next week with more information for your homes. So I'll see you then. Bye.